Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the making of album number 5. This episode is quite a tedious or mundane episode, maybe, depending on your point of view, whether or not you enjoy this kind of stuff. Basically, we're at the stage where we've got very little time left now before heading off to the studio to begin work on the album. So just kind of speeding through stuff a little bit. Loads of the stuff has been demoed. There's about 7 or 8 tracks that have been demoed, as in I've got overdubs and everything for those and kind of got a rough idea of how those are going to sound. A couple we're going to figure out in the studio, which maybe might lean more towards acoustic, like an acoustic, just vocals and acoustic type tracks. And then the remaining ones, just to speed things up a little bit, I've just played those to a click, so that Dave and Scott have got some idea of how they sound in terms of where they stop and they start and the tempo. So today, I'm just going through a few final things. Those are changing the strings on the guitars that I'm going to bring along, making a list of stuff that I need to bring with me, finishing the documents and then printing those off, so I've got those with me, and I think that's it, basically. Let's crack on, shall we? Admin day. These are guitars. In these guitar cases, I have guitar strings. So before you go to the studio, it's a good idea with some of the, well, they say it is a good idea, I agree. It's always good to change your guitar strings now and again, because after a while they start to sound a bit like they've got a wet blanket on them. I have some guitar strings here. I'm going to change the guitar strings to the 2 guitars that I'm going to bring with me. The 2 guitars that I'm going to bring are an Epiphone Cortez, which is this one, which you've probably seen a lot before. And I'm also going to bring, I was going to bring the Rickenbacker 330, but I might bring it, but I don't feel like the strings are in that bad a condition anyway. But I get the feeling that this album is more of a, rhythm-wise, it's more of a Telecaster album. So I'm going to replace the strings on this Telecaster as well, so we sound as good as we can sound under a microscope in the studio. So here's the tools that I need. You don't need this one, it's only because I actually like cutting off the superfluous bits of string that stick out at the end once they're wound in. Pair of cutters, a winder thingy, and these are the spare little things that you stick in the end of an acoustic guitar in case you break one. Take the old strings off. Told you this would be a tedious episode. Right. There we go. There's the old strings taken off. While I've got the strings off, I just use it as a quick opportunity to give it a little polish. I'll put a little bit of pledge on there, just give it a little, get rid of some of the dirt that was under the strings. Why not? Treat yourself. I'm not going to go nuts. I'm just going to get rid of those little bits by the frets. 1968 this guitar was made. Epiphone Cortez from the 1960s, which I used to think was the time when Epiphone were Epiphone and they weren't a subsidiary of Gibson. But I found out in the last year or so via Wikipedia, I think I was looking it up one day doing a bit of research on it, and I found out that they were owned by Gibson, I think in 1968. So it wasn't an Epiphone made when Epiphone were Epiphone. It was an Epiphone made when Epiphone were still a subsidiary of Gibson. Right, that's that bit done. Now we're going to put these strings on. In case you're interested, those are the strings I use. I won't try and pronounce that name. They're colour coded. So each one, E first string is silver, purple, green. That's how you know which string goes where, using this little guide on the back of the plastic packet. I'm actually colourblind as well, which makes this slightly awkward, but I can tell the difference between these ones, between gold and silver at least. And then what I like to do, because I don't like it, some people do their guitars and have all the bits of string. Let me just move that camera. Some people like it so that they're bits of string are just hanging off the edge like that. They don't actually trim them off. I like to trim mine. So if I just get a pair of wire cutters, cut that to about there. Winding by hand, just get the first loop. And then get my little winder. It's exciting, isn't it? There we go. Now I just need to do that another 5 times if my calculations are correct. There we go, final string, which is the E string. I don't know if the E string, if that's the top E string or the bottom E string. It's the fattest of the 2 E strings. And I always get confused as to what I guess it's the low E, would you call it? And then the next thing I need to do is just tune this up, and then that's it. Tune it up, give the strings a stretch. I'll play it a little bit on the run up to going into the studio, which will wear the strings in just enough that they don't keep going out of tune every 5 seconds. And then I'll start the Telecaster. It's like night and day. It's amazing the difference when you first change the strings. How good they sound. You realise what you've been putting up with for the last couple of months that you've been playing them. Anyway, one guitar down. One to go. I don't know when this one was actually last changed. It was, because I don't think we used it on the last couple of albums. It's been all about the Rickenbacker, so I don't think this has been changed for a long time, and they feel quite grubby, the strings. Right, and this one, Ernie Ball's regular 10 gauge Slinkies. So let's take off the old ones first of all. I do like the Telecaster and the Stratocaster. I feel like they're just built to do what they need to do without any kind of unnecessary aesthetics. I prefer the way the strings go on an electric guitar to how they go on an acoustic guitar as well. They've got a little hole at the end of each of these machine heads that you poke the string in so you don't get any leads hanging off the edge. But yeah, you can see on the back there, for those you probably already know this in here, but yeah, that's where all the strings go. Get threaded through there, so we'll poke those back through like that. Pull all those strings out. Just in case you're wondering what sort of Telecaster it is a Fender Telecaster Deluxe, which I used to know quite a lot about it. It was made in Mexico. It's a Mexican Telecaster. I tried lots of Telecasters out. I wanted to get a Telecaster because I play obviously predominantly rhythm. And I tried quite a lot of Telecasters when I bought this one, and this was my favourite. It's got 2 humbucker pickups. So it has quite a sort of what I would consider like a more rhythm friendly sound. So these are just a lot easier to understand because it's obviously just goes up in, the smallest number goes at the bottom, the highest number goes at the top or bottom, whichever way around it is. But anyway, we'll start with the 10, which is the thinnest string, work our way to the fat string. And that's guitar number 2 down, so I'm going to give the strings a little stretch. Always feels not right doing it, so I feel you're going to snap them. Alright, there we go. Another quick tune. So we go, 2 restrung guitars. One of my admin jobs done now. One step closer to being able to go to the studio with confidence. So one other thing that's just come up, Scott's just asked if he can have a copy of the rehearsal video for These Feelings Wear Ton. We've had a couple of rehearsals before going into the studio, and one of the tracks, These Feelings Wear Ton, I've got a demo of it, but also we've got the way that we played it when we played it in rehearsals. So I'm sort of like torn between which one we're going to do. So obviously got the demo, Scott can play along to that, and we've also got the studio rehearsal version as well. So The recorded version, my demoed version, sounds like this. These feelings weigh a ton, and I'm now... And the way that we played it in rehearsal sounds like this. So I need to make a decision as to which one we're going to do. So I'm going to take you through a couple of exciting documents, a document and a spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet that I use to put all the songs in, so that I know what I'm doing when I'm making a set list. So when I'm making a set list, I generally come to this spreadsheet so I can see where the capo goes, and I've also got, as well as this is a list of every single British IBM song, more or less, I think. And I give each song a rating on my ability to play it out of 5. So things like Animal on the British IBM and Sugar Water I can play in my sleep. I've played them so much, and they're quite simple songs, and they're like, I've had them for over a decade, so I know where I am with those. And then I give it an acoustic rating, which is how good does it actually sound with me on my own playing with an acoustic guitar. Those all sound pretty good on their own with an acoustic guitar. Good Afternoon, which kind of needs a band, or it's a more loopy type song. It's got a lot going on. I don't think it sounds particularly interesting when you play it on its Todd with an acoustic guitar. I also can't play it that well, just because I think I've played it like twice since we recorded it. So that gets a low acoustic rating and a low ability to play rating. But as I write songs, periodically, if I write them and I play them in the Twitch bar and they start getting requested and I start playing them on a regular basis, then they get added to this list, so that I know that I can use those when I'm looking for a set list. So we've got, this is where the last set of songs from the last album ends, which is Best Days Are Behind, and this is the songs that have become regular fixtures in the Twitch bar. The most recent one added is Quit. So that gives me an idea of if it reaches this spreadsheet, essentially it's like I'm into it. At least one other person's into it in the Twitch bar. It's been requested a few times. So these generally are going to make the cut for the album now. And then we've got this document, Album 5, as yet untitled, toying with the idea of calling it Things Change. But yeah, this is the document that's just, I've been going through, adding all the chords, any notes that I've got for the studio, BPM, etc. So I'm going to go through that now and just make any tweaks that I need to make sure all the chords are all there and everything that I might need to reference when we're recording. And you've got stuff like, some of this stuff isn't actually going to make the grade. So this, Your Favourite TV Show, that's a song that I've had that song for ages, and I keep playing it and it's not quite where it needs to be. Like, I'm not 100% sure on it, so I'm just going to leave that for another album or another day, because I can't quite decide on the treatment for that one. So that's not going to make the grade, and neither is Better Man. I recorded the demo of that song Better Man, and I listened back to all the demos periodically to just see what I think of them. Better Man sounds like this, and I'm not into it, so it's not making the grade. Yeah, so this document here I'm going to go through and just do some tweaking, make sure everything's on there that we need. I'll probably remove a couple of those. Artwork as well, that's another thing that I've been looking at. It's quite cool now, in the days of AI and all the rest of it. Generally what I would do, I think the first album cover, Daryl, who's done all the album covers so far, he came up with that idea completely. Just basically, I think I just gave him the logo and he made that first album cover. The second one, I gave him a rough idea, like some references to Mad Men and Psychopaths and stuff, and then he used that, and then I really liked that style, and we ended up using that similar style for the next couple of albums, toying with the idea of going in a different direction album artwork wise for this one, and probably keeping the logo. But now with stuff like AI and Canva and all the rest of it, for when I'm trying to work out what I want to do, I can actually go to Midjourney and just type random stuff, and then when I hand something over to Daryl, if he does the next album cover, it's like I've got some ideas. So I can show you a couple of ideas. You might think these are awful. I quite like this one. I don't know what I typed in on AI for this. This was like, I essentially used Canva. So they use the same, top strip logo thing that we normally use. Used AI to create something that looked like a 70s, 80s movie poster, which just generated that. And I quite like that image. And then chucked it in Canva to do this kind of like worn thing over the top, and things change. If it's going to be called things change. So that's one idea. This was like another idea. I think I saw Kink's album cover that did so. This looks all, I am aware that my placing of stuff and fonts isn't the best, but the idea is like a logo, some simple kind of shape, the album title, and then a photo. I don't know what photo it would be, but maybe take some new photos. Put a photo in there, put the band on the cover for the first time. This one, that was another idea. Now look at that now, looks a bit pants. And there's that AI picture I generated. As far as I know, if you're paying for Midjourney, which I am at the moment, if ever you've subscribed to Midjourney, you've paid money to it, then you have the rights to the images you create. So as far as I know, I can use that image. I quite like it. Right, I'm going to call that a day. As far as this episode's concerned, I'm going to carry on in the background doing some more tedious admin and studio prep bits and pieces. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed it, feel free to leave a comment or like and subscribe. I hate saying that, but it all helps. If you're one of the people that are on the Patreon, or you've purchased stuff, been in the Twitch bar, made any sort of donations or anything towards the, buy me a coffee and that kind of stuff, thank you very, very much. All the money that we get, if you do want to have a look at the Patreon or anything like that, it all just goes straight back into the band again. And the only reason that we're able to make the albums and keep producing music is just due to all that stuff. So if you are one of those people that's donated, purchased something, blah, 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 thank you very, very much. See you in the next episode.